In 3.
Drive me crazy going in and out of focus.
I think we're streaming, Lewis.
Oh, great.
The bits are coming in.
I didn't get a chance to
You
call.
didn't give me a countdown.
Sorry. I didn't know what was going to happen. I told you I didn't test this. I just hit the button and it started working. So we've been going for 22 seconds. 23 seconds.
I suppose
Okay.
the tweet's coming sometime.
You want the tweet action? Oh, see, I missed you, Lewis. No one asks for the tweet like Lewis. No one even remembers the tweet but Lewis. But if you got Lewis on the show and you don't have a tweet, you're in big trouble. Big trouble. Where's my tweet?
Man, this humane AI pin thing just happened.
There's the tweet, Lewis. Boom! And we're live. Oh, it's all working. I cannot believe it. We got Jay Cruz here. Hey, y'all. We got Sammy who says hello, hello, and halo. Anybody? Anybody? No one?
What? What the
No.
heck was that?
You don't know what that music was from?
No.
That was a
Star
test.
Trek's Revenge.
Star Trek's Revenge. Yeah. My favorite movie, Star Trek's Revenge. How did you guess? You're too good, Lewis.
I'm a guesser.
Star Trek's Revenge, now in theaters. All right. Well, look, we should just go ahead and hop right into it because we got so much stuff here. I mean, I feel like I say this all the time, but I don't even know if we're going to be able to make it through all this stuff because I got to be walking out the door in just over an hour. So.
But wait, what was that music?
What? Oh,
What were you singing?
It was the theme song of Halo, the video game Halo, which, Griffin, I thought maybe you would have at least played. Did you ever play any of the Halo games? Nothing? Oh,
I did not know.
Unbelievable. Hey, we got Stephanie Bazina. Did you make that? Is she your friend, Lewis? She's in the chat saying good morning. It must mean that she's
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno. Good morning. Okay. Let me go ahead and queue up Mrs. You-Know-Who, and we will get this thing rolling. God, yeah, I changed a bunch of stuff.
Tweet has been administered.
The tweet has been administered. I made so many changes. And not only did I make changes to our stream, I did a whole NVMe upgrade on my PC to add more storage, which involved me moving partitions on my main drive. I mean, I did a major surgery on my PC yesterday, and when I plugged it back in and turned it on, I was literally like praying, like, please God, let this thing turn on. And it did. It turned on, and it's been working pretty flawlessly. So I got all sorts of upgrades happening on the Cult Commander here. All right, let's go ahead and queue up Mrs. You-Know-Who, and we'll get this thing rolling. Oh, Mrs. D! Oh, Lou's back with the Lou cam. Let me go ahead and turn that on. Mrs. D, how are you? Oh, I'm doing well, my dear. Oh, yeah, you sound so chipper. Oh, yes, I also had a major operation with El Caney last night. Oh, boy. Do you even want to hear about this? Oh, yes, we had tea together. It was very lovely. Oh, tea. Yes. That's nice. And then we made love. Ugh. Gross. Lewis. Did you see that coming, Lou? I didn't see that one coming.
I'm just going to think about Operation and that great game that we played when we were kids where you get buzzed.
Can't touch the sides.
Shocked. I'm shocked now.
All right. Well, yes. Welcome back, Lewis. We all missed you.
Hey, it's great to be back.
We all missed your face of complete disgust every time Mrs. D took us somewhere that we really didn't want to go. And yet she keeps doing it, and it always tricks us. So, oh, man. Stephanie Bazina is watching you guys on the new Space Black. Oh, man.
Wow.
I'm on the fence, I have to say. I'm on the fence.
Really? I haven't seen one of these in person. I can't wait to.
I haven't either. I'm going to go down to the Apple Store this weekend and walk in and definitely walk out without one. Walk out without one. That's the goal, to walk out without one.
Good luck.
Do you want to put money on that?
Actually,
no, because then you spend even more money on a new computer.
Yeah, I can't afford to because I'll probably end up buying one. I'm going to get like the 8 terabyte, like 575 gigs of RAM. It's going to cost me $15,000. Okay, look, we got to get into all this. Mrs. D, if you don't mind, we're all thoroughly grossed out. We don't want to hear any more about your escapades with LK. I'm going to get the music going, and we will get this show rolling in 3, welcome to the CultCast, the best 30-plus minute Apple conversation you're going to hear all week long. I'm your host, Derek from Last. Joining me today, where is he? He spent the last 3 weeks wearing nothing but a Speedo and a gold chain. He's finally back from his 2-week Italian whirlwind vacation. It took him like 4 weeks. He's in Italian time.
Check the calendar, buddy.
He's the managing editor of Cult Mac. Lewis Walls is here.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno to Luigi. Also with us, now that Lewis is back, he's back to wearing his military-grade leaf suit to bed in case old Luigi comes looking for him at night and he needs to make a quick escape into the nearby woods. He's a writer at Cult Mac. Griffin Jones is here.
Good evening.
Hey, the 3D effect is gone there, Griffin. You fixed it somehow. Good
Yeah,
job.
But
thank
unfortunately, his hair looks to be in 4D.
that's like 5D hair right there. Look at that volume. Look at that
level.
thing. Yeah, well, did he tell you his secret before the show? He had one of those skydiving systems installed in his backyard. He just spends like 30 minutes floating above it, and then he comes in and look at that.
Finding somewhere to get a 6-dimensional haircut is very tricky in this part of the state, though. I'm still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, it doesn't sound cheap either. For 6 dimensions, every time we talk about it, it goes up a dimension. All right. Let's see here.
Inflation.
I Cave Dave is saying love child of Craig Federighi. I would believe that if it were more gray. But I don't know. Did your mom know Craig Federighi in school?
Oh, dear. This is tasteless.
All right, let's move on before things get weird. We got a lot of stuff to talk about here in today's show. I think the main thing that we're going to try and hit is, I was telling the guys before we started going live, I feel like this is one of the most confusing Mac drops we've ever gotten. I mean, the M3 Macs, they made all these changes. They made a bunch of changes to the M3 Pro line. And then you have the 13-inch MacBook Pro that has moved up to become a 14-inch MacBook Pro, and now it just gets a regular M chip. It gets the M3. And if you're like me, you've probably been watching tons of reviews and reading as much as you can on what the differences are between all of it. And to be honest, I feel like a lot of the reviewers still don't even understand what Apple has done here. And a lot of people are confused, especially with the M2 Pro line of MacBook Pros, which we'll talk about. And when it comes to the M2 Pros, I'm no longer confused. I know exactly what Apple did, and I know why they did it. And we'll talk about all of that. And I think that there's really only 2 models of MacBook Pro that you should even consider buying. So if you're thinking about buying one, I mean, look, if you're watching this show, I already know what you're buying. Doesn't even matter. What's good and what's not good. I already know you're going to get the M3 Max, and you're probably going to plurk down the $8,000 for the top tier model, and you'll be happy with your life because this is an audience that likes to take it to the max. I know that. And we live that max lifestyle, and I like that about all of you. I want to live that max lifestyle too, but with that built-in price hike, it's like, it's tough, man. It's tough to spend that premium that Apple has got now on the M3 Max chips. Anyway, we will talk about all that. Let me see here. Before we dive in, oh, please, God, let me see if I set up browser mode. Did I do it? I did. It's working. Oh, no, Lewis, you and I are a little bit too close. And it seems like for some reason, Griffin's circle, I almost called you Grifster for some reason. Your circle's cut off, man. What happened there? That's so weird.
Heavens.
See, this is why I didn't even play with this, though. Let's see if I can fix it on the fly. No, it's not going to work. Okay, well, we'll have to look into that. But I want to thank Squarespace for supporting this episode. Squarespace.com/CultCast. You know, I was thinking, Lewis, Squarespace is like the M3 Max of the web hosting world. They just got it all. And they do it better than anyone else. And I should know, I'm not just a promoter of Squarespace. I'm also a happy customer. If you go over to cultcloth.co, you'll see that I'm running a Squarespace store. And I wasn't sure if Squarespace could handle the unbelievable pace of the orders that come in to cultcloth.co, especially now that people are upgrading their Macs. And we had the iPhone 15 come out, and anyone who wants a premium grade cloth to clean their high-tech equipment, they all know that there's nothing better than cold cloth. And so the orders just keep pouring in. And I wasn't sure if Squarespace could handle it, but they do. And it never hiccups. It never goes down. The site looks beautiful. And the best part is it took me minutes to set up the site. You can go in there and you can have a website up in no time. The whole thing is just designed to sell. And you can dive in and customize absolutely everything if you want. Make it look completely uniquely yours without even having to know how to code. So it's just a really powerful tool, and there's a bunch of stuff built in when you're ready to grow your business. You want to send out marketing emails that are branded to the same aesthetic as your website. You can do all that stuff right from within Squarespace. They really include a lot of powerful tools. And if you're ready to promote yourself, promote your business, turn your hustle into a business, I like that, then head on over to squarespace.com/CultCast. Sign up for the free trial. Build a website, see how you like it. I always tell people, just try it out. And if you like what you have at the end of the trial and you want to continue your service, use code CultCast at checkout. You'll save 10% off your first purchase. I do a year of service at a time, which includes an even bigger discount. And you can use code CultCast at checkout. You'll get 10% off whatever first purchase you make at squarespace.com/CultCast and use the offer code CultCast when you're ready to make your purchase. Welcome back to Luigi. Do you want to tell everyone where you were, Luigi? I think some people maybe don't know where you went.
Well,
but you have that very European shirt on, so clearly you've come back changed.
Yeah. I went to Italy for a couple of weeks. I think a couple is accurate. Went there for a couple of weeks.
I don't think it's accurate, but apparently your sense of time is completely warped since you're now on Italian time.
It's hilarious. We went to Alba, Italy for the International White Truffle Fair, which is very exciting. We went to the Aosta Valley, which is kind of up near France. And oddly enough, it was kind of like rainy and gray the whole time we're over there. We're getting ready to go fly back. We had to fly back out of Milan, right? We're like, well, should we go to Milan tomorrow, spend a day there? And we go and look at the news sites. It's like, it's raining so hard in Milan that and we're like, well, maybe we won't go there. So we spent a little more time up near the mountains. It's a great time overall. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe that I somehow timed it so I missed that Scary Fast event. But what are you going to do?
Yeah, well, none of us saw it coming, so there's no way you could have known that it was going to happen. I mean, it kind of we talked about this, Griffin and I did. I mean, it completely sprang up out of nowhere. It's like all of a sudden there was nothing happening, and then boom, all of a sudden there's an event. And a big event.
I totally timed it for the end of, the trip for the end of October because I figured if there was going to be an event, it's going to be October, first half, right?
Yeah.
Oops.
Whoops. Well, we'll talk all about the M3 MacBook Pros here, and I'm going to try to simplify what Apple did because, as I mentioned, this has been one of the most confusing Mac drops that I think that we've gotten in a long time. I mean, honestly, in the history of this show, I can't recall having a Mac drop be this confusing since they changed the configurations of all the different systems. And then also they changed the performance window of all the machines in a dramatic way. Like normally you kind of know what the M Pro or the Pro series chips are going to do, what the Macs are going to do, and then the base models, you kind of know, and all of that has been completely changed around. So
I can't wait for this riveting analysis because
riveting.
I was just kind of like, well, it's new Macs, new Macs with faster chips.
Far more than new Macs. But let me send it to you, Lewis, for your first story here.
Yeah, well, those fantastic new Macs are available now. The M3 iMac and the M3 MacBook Pros are now officially on sale in the United States, United Kingdom, Europe, and other select countries. Live in one of those places, you can walk right into the store and pick one up. Actually, I have not checked today to see if they're still available, but I assume they are. They must be.
Yeah,
they haven't sold out. Macs never sell out.
I looked on Apple's website yesterday, and it looked like there was a bunch that were still available. By the way, if you're watching the stream live, I have no idea what the heck is going on with Griffin. Your camera, I don't know if it's me or if it's you. It's like you're in a half circle. You're like in a crescent moon right now.
It's a half dome.
It's probably me, so don't stress about it. But if you're watching live, I'm gonna have to fix this. I made a bunch of changes in the last few days. Like you'll probably notice the streaming quality is much better. Like super high fidelity. The resolution is higher. and also, no, that's not going to work. I Cave Dave. It's because you could see the bottom of his circle is completely, literally gone, and I don't know. I don't know why that happened.
Is
looks
it
like it
cutting
wouldn't
off my
fit there.
face, or is it
No,
just
no,
not
your face
fitting
is
in
still
the
there,
circle?
so we're good.
Okay.
But we can't see
What-
your pecs, and that's a part of the show. So
I
that's
think
going
if
to be
the
a
circle
disappointment
was
for me.
whole, it would hit your circle.
Yeah, you're probably right. Well, I just raised my circle because I was like literally like
Circle
squatting
raiser.
on your head. Okay, we don't need to do a whole episode about this, but
Yeah,
I just
it's
wanted to mention it just so people
riveting conversation.
just so people don't start commenting on it. And I made a bunch of changes to the way we stream to YouTube. I mean, some big changes around here.
Oh, and more to come. More to come.
So, Lewis, you let people know that the Macs are available. Well, not all the Macs are available.
That's
Lewis. Did
right.
you mention that part?
M3 Max MacBook Pro goes on sale later this month.
That's right. Although you can buy them on Apple's website.
Well, I think you can pre-order them.
Yeah.
You can't get your hands on one.
They
right
won't
now,
send
can
it to you. Yeah. But if you want to go in the store and actually buy one or see one, it's going to be until late November. I don't know exactly when in late December or in November. Real quick, it looks like we got a super chat. All of a sudden, people have started sending us super chats, which is
They feel
which is
sorry
cool.
for us.
Yeah, maybe that's it. They saw Griffin's half circle and they just felt such pity.
Can we
They're like, please
expand
get
into a
these
full
guys some
circle?
help. So Anthony Hernandez, thank you for the $5. Do you think Apple is starting to rip us off with 8 gigs of RAM and $200 to upgrade RAM? I don't know. What do you think about that, Griffin?
Starting to. This is not news. Apple is always well overcharged for RAM and storage. I paid like an obscene amount of money to get 2 terabytes of storage in my Mac Mini, and it's frankly like kind of ridiculous. But this isn't anything new.
Yeah, I do feel like we have gotten to a whole new level of nickel and diming, though, Anthony. I feel the same way. And it's not just for the base MacBook Pro. Like for the M3 Max version, like I said last week, they essentially built in a 20% it was almost a 20% price hike into the M3 Max. So like the $34.99 that you would spend on an M3 Max in the M2 generation, now if you want that same level of power, you will have to get, or that same spec, I should say, you will have to spend $4,000 for that same spec'd out MacBook Pro, right? Where you're getting the best Max version of the chip. It's I don't know, man. I know there's a lot of people out there that don't mind that, but $4,000 to me is excessive for a MacBook Pro, and that's before you even upgrade anything. Like if you want more storage, if you want to upgrade to 2 terabytes instead of the 1. Then yeah, you got to dish out another, I think it's $400 for that. So I'm feeling the pain too. I think that the price increases here are painful for sure. And the M3 base model should have come with 16 gigs of RAM, level remix saying, yeah, I totally agree. $1,600 for a MacBook Pro or for a computer, and you're only getting 8 gigs of RAM. Now, there's a lot of people that will say that that's enough. I don't care if it's enough. Doesn't it just feel cheap? Like 8 gigs of RAM for a $1,600 computer. I just feel like that's bad optics. It should be at least 16 gigs of RAM, especially if you're going to call the machine a pro level machine. But okay, well, let's see here.
Did the M2 version start at 16 or something? They didn't lower it, did they?
They didn't lower it, but it is kind
and
of
they
weird
dropped the price
that
by $400, right? Come on, the price went down.
Well, no, it didn't. It appears like the price went down because Apple introduced a new model which has the base M chip in it, as opposed to having the M or the Pro level M series chip. So they didn't lower the price. They just offered a cheaper spec'd version. So the price is lower. So you're getting less, right? So that's why the price is lower.
This is where the confusion you were talking about comes into play.
Oh, part of it, yeah.
See, I'm confused.
Yeah, so essentially, let me see here. Where are we in our notes? I want to make sure I'm not getting ahead
Let's
of
move
myself.
way
on to
off
your
the
story,
page.
Irfan. Yeah.
We're already
Didn't
way
take
in the
long.
weeds. I'm going to try and make this as interesting as possible here. And I'm only going to hammer on the high-level stuff because we don't need to dive into the weeds here. I'm going to try and make sense of everything. But we have a story on CultCast. Let me bring this up. All M3 MacBook Pros reviewed, same cars, better engine, right? So now you have an M3 version, the M3 Pro version, the M3 Max version. And then also, there was also a great piece from Mac Rumors, Apple Silicon Buyer's Guide, which chip should you choose. I found this to be really helpful too. So there's a lot of great information in both these, and I'll kind of be taking bits and pieces from both of these stories to make sense of everything that happened. But effectively, the way I've been looking at this is the M3 MacBook Pro is essentially a MacBook Air Pro. So what you would normally get in a MacBook Air, right, the base level chip, the M3, which, by the way, the current MacBook Air doesn't even have the M3. They're still using the M2. They're taking that and they're putting it into the body of a MacBook Pro. So what does that get you? It gets you, well, I think the big thing is it gets you the better speaker system, the better microphones, and it gets you the Pro Motion display. So you're getting all the accoutrement of the MacBook Pro, but the heart is effectively a MacBook Air with the performance of the base M series chip. Now, that's not to say that that's bad, because there's a ton of benchmarking that has happened here. I have watched
the machine it replaces is the same. The machine it replaces, the 13-inch MacBook Pro with M2, also just had a base chip, but it didn't even have any of those, nicer features like the better display, the extra ports.
The ports, yeah.
That's true. You get the extra ports. That is also true. Although you get 2 Thunderbolt ports instead of 3 with the better M Pro. I keep calling it the M Pro. The Pro and the Max series chips. But you get much better performance over the M2, the base M2 chip. So there's been a ton of benchmarking that has happened. I've watched so many freaking benchmarking videos. And benchmarking is not straightforward, right? Because there are so many different tests that people can run. I mean, there's Cinebench, there's Geekbench, there is Final Cut Pro and exporting tests and Blizzard and Wizard. I mean, I'm just making stuff up now, but there's all sorts of stuff. And so it's kind of hard to contextualize, okay, like how much better performance are we getting here? And I do think a good way of doing it is looking at the Geekbench scores and looking at the single-core performance and the multi-core performance, because that kind of gives you like a raw benchmark of how much better the CPU is. And then, of course, there's GPU tests, of course. So I think what it comes down to is this. In the Geekbench 6 results, the results were this. The M3 chip is about 20% faster than the M2 chip. That's a big performance difference, right? So if you're looking at the base level MacBook Pro, I actually do think that the performance increase you're going to get there is going to be substantial. And I think that is one that a lot of people are going to be very happy with. In fact, I think it's the new best value play. Whereas before, I probably would have said like the M2 Pro series MacBook Pro might have been the best value play. I actually don't even think you should buy that or consider that computer anymore, because they nerfed it so hard. And we could talk about that in a little bit. So about 20% better CPU performance in the M3 version MacBook Pro over the previous M2 version. Correct? Okay. I'm going to talk about the M3 performance next. So this is where Apple really went bonkers. So you're looking at about a 50% increase in performance in the M3 Max over the M2 Max if you get the best level M3 Max chip, which will cost you $4,000. It has 16-core CPU, 40-core GPU, bonkers performance. I mean, from the benchmarks I have seen, this might be the biggest increase in performance that we've seen in the MacBook Pro ever. I mean, ever. It is, in many tests, it is beating the M1 Ultra. The M1 Ultra, which is the double M1 Max chips. It's beating that in most of the benchmarks that I've seen. There's a few where the M1 Ultra still wins. And it's even competing with the M2 Ultra in some tests. So this thing is absolutely bonkers. The GPU performance is off the charts, right? Blows away the M2 Max. The M3 Max MacBook Pro, like the top level that they sell, is better than the M2 Max in every single regard. Performance-wise, SSD-wise, I mean, you name it. It is just a killer machine. But
it looks like, if I can interject for a moment, it looks like across the board at these graphs that you have from the Mac Rumor story, if you're comparing M1 to M3, you get better performance on M3 even if you go down a whole class of chip lower. Like for example, the M3 outperforms the M1 Pro. The M3 Pro outperforms the M1 Max. The M3 Max outperforms the M1 Ultra. Not by a little margin. It's a pretty significant margin in a lot of these. The only exception being, I think, the M3 compared to the M3 Pro. No, sorry, the M3 compared to the M1 Pro, where the higher configuration M1 Pro is like, kind of it's a little fuzzy there. But generally, if you're upgrading from M1 to M3, you're getting better performance across the board.
Yeah, I think that's true. And again, if you want to dive into all these specs, this Mac Rumors M3 guide I think is actually pretty interesting. And they've laid a lot of stuff out here, although there is a typo here that they have. They put should I let them know? Should I let them know? For the M3 Pro chip, they're saying that it comes with 16 or 19 core GPU, which is actually not true. It comes with either 14 or 18 core GPU, which is one of the reasons why it sucks. So let's talk about the M3 Pro Series MacBook Pro. I wouldn't touch this thing with a 9-foot pole. Not a 10-foot pole, but maybe 9. No way. Wouldn't touch it. And I think it's grossly overpriced for what you're getting. And the reason is this. Apple had made huge efficiency gains in the M3 series chips, but they nerfed the M3 Pro chip big time. So the previous Pro chips had 6 or 8 high performance cores and then 4 energy efficient cores. But in the new M3 Pro chip, you get only 5 or 6 high performance cores, and they've bumped up the energy efficient cores to 2. So what you got in efficiency gains from just the M3 having more transistors, being smaller nanometer architecture, you lose in the fact that Apple removed 2 of the performance cores and adding instead 2 efficiency cores. So in all the benchmarks that I've seen, the M3 Pro is either the same or even slower than the M2 Pro. Now that is bonkers. And they also did this with the GPU. So instead of getting 16 or 19 cores in your GPU, like you could with the M2 Pro, you only can get 14 or 18 cores with the GPU. So you're spending effectively the same money, but you're getting way less performance. And for that reason, I don't think the M3 Pro makes any sense. I mean, I guess if you were just a pleb, you don't follow this stuff at all. And in fact, I think this is the play. If you don't follow this stuff at all, then you would probably look at the M3 Pro and it might make sense to you if you're coming from an Intel chip or the M1 Pro chip or the M1 series of MacBook Pros. But if you're coming from the M2, I mean, even if you're coming from like an M1 Max, I still don't think that it makes any sense. I just don't know who this machine's for. And a lot of people in the benchmarks were really confused about this. Like a lot of people kept looking at the results of their benchmarks. And I saw people say, like, I think Greg's Gadgets, his review headline was, "This is weird." I saw another benchmark video that said, these results are confusing. It's not confusing. Apple nerfed the M3 Pro chip, and I think the reason they did it, this is my opinion obviously, is because they wanted to boost the price of the M3 Max 20%, and they don't want the M2 Pro chip to be too close in performance to draw people into that series of chip instead of the M3 Max. So now if you want the performance, you got to fork over the cash. Or Apple's going to try and lure in people on the low end. If you were thinking about buying an M2 MacBook Air, maybe it makes more sense for you now to buy the M3 MacBook Pro because you get better performance CPU and GPU wise, and then you get all the extra better features of the Pro MacBook Pro. Previously, the M2 or the Pro level chips had the same core performance as the M3 Max, but the Max chips got you more GPU cores. And that's no longer the case. Now the CPU is nerfed, and the GPU has fewer cores. So there's way more distinction in performance between the Max chips and the M3 Pro chips. And I think the only reason that they did this, I know, Lewis, this is going to shock you, is because they want to push you into spending more money with the M3 Max. Now, that is fine. If you want to fork over the extra money for the Max, then, whatever, do whatever you want to do. But I think it's good to know that. And that kind of goes into the Apple is nickel and diming us conversation from earlier. It's like, yes, I do think they actually are taking this opportunity to boost their prices in a very tricky way and push people into higher priced Macs.
Are you done talking about specs?
I thought you were gonna say, could you repeat that?
It is kind of confusing and
Oh, dude, it's so confusing.
but totally riveting. Don't get me wrong, totally riveting.
Yeah, I could tell. I could tell that with you were really focused because your eyes were closed and your head was tilted back.
That's what happens when I'm really grooving on some specs, man. The eyes shut.
So I don't know which machine am I gonna get. So I'm considering sticking with my M1 Max MacBook Pro. Here's what I'm waiting for. I said this last week just to put a bow on this. I want to know if the 14-inch MacBook Pro has the same level of performance as the 16-inch M3 Max. So are those two M3 Max versions the same performance-wise? If they are, I will probably go for the 14-inch MacBook Pro because, like I said, the M3 Max is an absolute monster. It is beating the M1 Ultra in many, if not most, benchmarks. I mean, you are effectively getting an M1 Ultra chip in a MacBook Pro. So, Anthony Hernandez with another $2. Could you repeat that? Let's get the moderators in here. Someone get the refund that $2. Get him out of here. Yeah, Lewis loves when we talk specs. That's true. Yeah,
I think you can count on the 14-inch model being comparable to the 16-inch model because that's what Apple Silicon goes for. They tune their chips and they bin them by power efficiency and by performance so that you get identical performance on whichever computer you get, as long as you're getting the same chip. So I bet you could count on the 14 being the same as the 16 if that's what you're interested in.
I hate to slap your hand here live on the show here, Griffin, but unfortunately that is not true with the 14-inch MacBook Pro. And the reason is because of thermals. So in the past, there's been a lot of problem with Apple not building in effective thermals in the 14-inch MacBook Pro, and so you get that performance, you get the same level of performance, but in a short burst. Then the chip gets too hot, and then it thermal throttles, and you lose tons of performance. So if you're doing anything that is using the Max for an extended period of time, exporting a video, fluid dynamics, exporting in Blender or something, you get that burst of performance, and then it gets too hot, and it drops it way down.
Can I ask how much of your workday is spent maxing your fan speeds up at maximum performance?
Look at me, Griffin. I spend my whole day at the max. That is a good point. When we're looking at these benchmarks, it's funny because people will do an export and they'll be like, oh man, this took a full 2 minutes longer on the M2 Max. It's like, okay. In the arc of your life, does that matter that it took an extra 2 minutes? Like, is it, I guess, how much time is it going to save you cumulatively? And are you so busy that you can't spare 2 minutes? That's a decision that you all have to make for yourself. But in some exports...
Alternatively, I could turn that around on you and say, does the few minutes of time that you save actually justify buying another $4,000 laptop?
If you are a business, it might, right? So if you are working for a company that does editing all day, every day, or you're a developer and you're waiting for things to render, then it actually might. It actually might make a big difference, right? Because
but I'm asking about you specifically.
You're asking the wrong question. The question is it the max power that's available? That's the question I ask. Doesn't matter if I need it. Doesn't matter how much it costs. Is it the best? Because I live my life buying the best. Buy once, cry once, right? That's my motto. But I don't know if I could. I don't know if I have the tears for a $4,000 MacBook Pro. Now, again, I'm not saying this to brag because I'm actually totally grateful and humble that I have these offers available to me. I have been offered a discount, an Apple discount on the MacBook Pro, which brings the $4,000 MacBook Pro down to $3,600. I think that includes tax, and it also includes the upgrade to 2 terabytes of storage. But even that, I was like, dang, that's a lot of money to spend on a computer. So even with the discount, I still am hesitant to buy it. And I'm like, who's spending $4,000? This is the part that really bothers me, is I feel like the pro level performance used to be something that was achievable by normal people, right? It was expensive, but you could do it. But now that the MacBook Pro top spec, and this is before any additional configuration, custom configurations, it's $4,000. I'm like, how many regular people can afford a $4,000 laptop, especially in today's economy? I don't think very many. And so what you end up having to do is sacrifice performance and getting tricked into getting the M2 Pro because it has the name Pro attached to it, and you think that the performance is actually Pro, and it's not. It's like not. It's nowhere close.
I would argue that Pro starts at M3 Pro and not M3 Max, and I'm sure that's what Apple would say as well.
I'm sure TC would say that. He probably did say that in the financial earnings call, but I don't know. When they're looking at Pro, they're looking at the total performance of the whole package, right? So they're looking at, well, it has ProMotion. Well, it's got 3 Thunderbolt ports. Well, it has this, it has that. Like, they're looking at all that stuff. And I think that stuff is all worth considering. But for me, I'm looking at pure raw horsepower. How fast is this thing going to go? How much time am I going to save in exports? You know, how much time is it going to save me in everyday tasks? And all the other stuff is just secondary. I'm like, okay, it has, it's a brighter screen. Great. It has ProMotion. Okay, great. All that stuff is fine, but the horsepower, I think, is what matters the most to me. I can't believe we talked about this for this length of time, but there you go. That's where I'm at with all of this. And like I said, it's been super confusing. I could do another hour on this, and actually we could dive into the details about cores and how Apple changed the core counts and certain stuff. And but I don't think that we need to beat this horse anymore, because if we start getting into spec talks, Lewis is going to have serious gastrointestinal issues. He just got back. I don't want to do this to you, Lewis.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, man. The chat's been going crazy. Sorry, I haven't been able to keep up with all this conversation, but clearly some of the points are resonating with some of you. Let's see. What do we have next? What should we talk about next? I think that was the main crux of it. Yeah, before we move on, do we want to do our giveaway here just real fast, Lewis?
Yeah,
Griffin's been doing a great job with giveaway, so, I mean, good luck.
You want to take it over there?
Oh, he was doing it. We didn't even have it in the show notes. He was just doing it impromptu.
Wow. Okay.
And, I mean, the signups just went off the charts. So
maybe he should do this one, although we're a little short on details right now. This late-breaking giveaway news this week, and the post is not yet live, but it should be by the time you hear this podcast.
That's why I'm going to the Zugu website. So this is what we're giving away effectively, right?
Yeah, Zugu, an iPad Pro, Zugu, or the company's called Zugu, right? Or is it Zugu Case? I can't even remember now. Embarrassing. I mean, this is literally like, I can't even highlight this now. It keeps blinking in the Google Doc. I think it's
working on the stream. I got it going.
Okay, great. Yeah, Zugu is the name of the company. They make these great iPad cases. We've written about them in the past, and they're apparently like some of the finest cases on the internet. Or like the internet loves these cases. I've never used one, but we're giving away at least one, maybe more. I'm not actually sure. We don't have the details of this giveaway hammered out yet. That's why it's not on the site yet. But we're going to be giving away at least one iPad Pro 12.9-inch case sometime this week. Is that the sketchiest giveaway pitch you've ever heard?
Sold. Sold me.
I just wanted to mention it because it once it goes live, it's going to be, I think a popular giveaway because those cases are good. And look at the homepage, scroll down to the giveaway. Once that post is up there, you'll be able to click on it and enter. It'll be free, and you'll have a really great time doing it. And if you win, you're going to be so happy with yourself, and that's what we like. We like people to be happy with themselves.
Absolutely. Well, Level Remix in the chat says he has this case. It's 100% awesome. So there you go.
Oh, there you go. Look at user testimonial. 100% awesome. I mean, that's hard to get higher than that.
Yeah, I think this one's pretty popular on Amazon too. I've heard of this company before. I've never tried their stuff before, but it looks pretty burly. So look, we can't. What are we supposed to do here, Lewis? We got nothing to tell these people. I mean, I guess keep your eyes on cultofmac.com.
Yeah. Go to the homepage. I think probably by the time this podcast is released,
right.
I mean, right now you can't enter because it doesn't exist. Once the podcast goes live, by then this giveaway should be live.
So just go to cultofmac.com. Scroll down.
Giveaway.
The giveaway section is always there. So
super easy to find.
Look at all these pictures of us and actually Griffin. There's like pictures of Griffin all over this website. It's like cultofgriffin.com. Just change the name. Yeah, because he's doing all the videos now. So and he's
on
he's
our
also,
website.
He's also doing
Zuko
stories. No, I'm on cultofmac.com.
Gotcha.
He's gonna start putting his own image and his header images for his stories soon. And it's literally going to be cultofgriffin.com. You're going to have to change the name.
I'm going to send him a shirt that's not black.
Is that a criticism or is that a...
Hey,
no,
I love Johnny
I
Cash.
think it improves the site.
But,
Honestly. I mean, look at
there's
that.
an awful lot of black shirt pictures. It's kind of like a Steve Jobs uniform, huh?
Hey, you know what? There's nothing wrong with black shirts. My whole closet is black shirts.
But you're not wearing one now.
I mean, it's kind of a little bit black. It's like, I mean, there's black and black inspired, you know? It's like black plaid. Yeah, look at that great image. Look at that one, Lewis. That one's looking good. All right, I digress. So just scroll down to the giveaway section.
Serious digression.
All right, cool. And I love doing this segment. So we're doing this podcast swap with podcasts that we think have a style that is similar to our style and might resonate with our listeners, and then they promote us as well. And I have a brand new podcast for you guys this week that I think you actually might like. And if you like our content and you like hearing about tech and Apple news, then you might also like the podcast from this network called Twite, or maybe it's pronounced Twit.
Sorry,
Twit.
what? Twite?
Yeah. No, it's Twit.
Oh.
TWIT .TV
Playing with us.
/Apple. They have multiple programs. This must be a startup. They have multiple programs about Apple topics. They have a show called Mac Break Weekly. Oh, that's clever. It's like a break during your day, but about Macs. They've also got one called iOS Today and Hands on Mac Break Weekly, the latest news and views from top Apple experts. I mean, I could verify that. They've had me on. And Leo Laporte and I, very close friends. We text throughout the day. He invites me to his picnics, but unfortunately I don't live in the same city, so I can't go. iOS Today, tips, tricks, and all the best apps for your iOS devices. Hands on Mac. Learn how to get the most from your Mac and other Apple devices. Boy, for a startup, these guys really got it figured out. And of course, if you're looking for more Apple content, I wholeheartedly recommend stuff from Leo Laporte and crew, like his sidekick, Andy Anatko, who looks like Wolverine's older, nicer uncle. I mean, he's got the exact same hairstyle. He looks like Wolverine's uncle, doesn't he, Lewis?
I don't know.
Should I pull up a picture of him? No, we don't have time to do that. I joke, of course. Mac Break Weekly. I mean, what do you want me to say? They've been doing this forever. It cracks me up that they want to promote their podcast on our show. I'm going to read the last part of this. Let's see here. I already read all this. If you want to check it out, I basically ad-libbed this whole thing. I mean, the only thing
I couldn't tell.
The only thing I'd probably mention.
It sounded so well polished. It's really shocking to hear that was off the cuff.
I know. I have the gift of improv. So the only thing I would add is they've got hosts Alex Lindsay, Andy Anatko, aka Wolverine's older uncle, Jason Snell, and Leo, and they got them all. So if you want to hear more Apple content, especially breaking down this Mac stuff, head on over to twit.tv/Apple, twit.tv/Apple to find your next favorite Apple podcast, twit.tv/Apple. I'd love to see Leo again. It's been too long. Maybe dance with each other like that dance we had at South by Southwest, which was fun, but also oddly romantic, Lewis.
Dear.
We had a special moment together. Okay, let's move on because, look, I got to be walking these sweet buns out the door in 30 minutes. So we got to move on here. We redid all these stories. Let's talk next about, should we talk about iOS 18? Did you want to talk about that real fast, Griffin?
Yeah, sure.
All right, take it away.
This is a story reported on by Mark Gurman at Bloomberg, written up by Ed on Cult of Mac. Considering iOS 17, macOS Sonoma 14, etc., just launched in September, some people might think that their replacements are still in the planning phases. No, Apple's well past that. Last month, the company completed the first version of the next iPhone, iPad, and Mac operating systems, reported Bloomberg on Tuesday. That iteration, known as M1, since it's the first major milestone. After reaching Milestone 1, Apple developers reportedly stopped adding new features to Milestone 2 because the code had too many bugs. As iOS 18, macOS 15, and watchOS 11 are still many months away, it's possible this brief delay will have no effect on users. On the other hand, bumped my microphone there. On the other hand, it might cause Apple executives to be less ambitious about how many additional features can go into the next major versions when they launch in fall 2024. I just wanted to mention this because my understanding of how Apple works on these giant software projects broadly is that it's not like they ship iOS 17 and then they start thinking, oh well, let's start working on iOS 18. No, I mean, internally, they focus on these different teams. Like there's their Safari team, their Photos team, and then within those specifically, they have different teams working on like specific features. It could take like years in the making. I can't imagine how long like the team that was working on iCloud Shared Photo Library probably had to work on that. When I was at WWDC, I was talking to a guy who like said he was working on Stage Manager, and I was like, oh, how long did that take? And he was like, we've been working on this a long time, like many, many years.
12 years? It's like,
yeah.
And this is what you came up with?
So like at some point, all these teams working on these features, once they get close enough, they will then start to be like rebased into specific releases. Like, okay, our team will be ready to go by the next major version. And so that'll be rolled into iOS 18 and all that. And I think that if anything, this story tells me that the next major software releases are going to be pretty big ones with a lot of features on the, as opposed to what Ed was speculating here. If there are so many new features that like by milestone 1, like the entire thing was like breaking catastrophically, so they had to like pump the brakes and say, hold on, we gotta work some of this stuff out. That could mean there's some big changes coming to the next major releases, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm always a fan of hardening. Like if they're having major problems and they want to take a moment and actually address a lot of those issues, I'm always a fan of that. Like, I continually have issues with iOS and macOS, and there's little things that just don't work the way that they're supposed to work, and they're kind of buggy, and I'm like, dude, they just drives me crazy. So, but it seems like this pause is going to be not very long, and to your earlier comment, maybe something that we don't even notice. I saw a story from Gurman that said even though that they're taking this pause to do bug fixing, they're still going to be adding a bunch of new major features to iOS 18. So
I would also like to know, like, how unusual is this? Like, is this like the anonymous source who, slipped this information to Mark Gurman didn't add the context? Maybe it's somebody who's new at Apple. Like, he didn't specify like whether this is a regular part of the process or not. Like, it could just be like, every few milestones they stop adding new features and they just work out bugs until the next one. And, we don't really know that much. If you have any additional context to add, you can send me an anonymous email, feedback@dgriffinjones.com. Let me know.
Dude, I was telling Griffin last show, Lewis, I'm like, I swear, Gurman's his source has got to be Tim Cook or somebody like official within Apple giving him real information. He's so accurate. And you know what it reminds me of? Who's that guy at the Loop? Do you remember the website The Loop? And there was like
Vaguely,
and we found out it was a popular Apple site, and the guy would confirm or deny popular Apple rumors with just a yes or a nope. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Dalrymple?
Yes, Jim Dalrymple. And we later found out that he was literally in cahoots with Apple, and they were feeding him stuff. Do you remember this?
In cahoots with?
In cahoots, man.
You mean
major cahoots?
Like Federighi's handing him notes full. I'm sorry, manila envelopes full of notes and things.
Like they show up at the train center at the same time. They're both carrying the same black suitcase. Oh, whoops, we bumped into each other. And then they both pick up the other person's suitcase and keep walking. And he was just like unfolding those notes and literally just reading them. But look, this was all but confirmed, wasn't it? Like Jim Dalrymple was in cahoots with Apple and was literally getting his intel from them. Now, I can't 100% confirm that, but I'm pretty sure that's true from all the stories that I saw come out, and I think it was confirmed. And so there is, if that is true, there is precedent for that happening. Like Apple wants to have some moles within the journalist community. And when I look at how accurate Gurman has been, and the fact that, like, if you would think that Gurman was getting all his intel from the developer community, then wouldn't Gruber also be breaking major stories? I mean, who's more tied into the developer community than Gruber? I can't think of anyone. And yet he never breaks anything. So I think it's an
my impression is that he doesn't really care to be in that business of breaking news. But I think the only question is, like, in what capacity is marketing his information? But is marketing his information in an official capacity, or does he just have like a network of very good sources who are leaking to this to him?
I think it's official. And the reason I think it's official is because, I mean, look, if you're caught feeding rumors to a journalist like Gurman, dude, your job is done. And you could even be in legal trouble. And you having that stain on your record as somebody in the tech industry would be massively impactful. Like you could be excommunicated from the tech community for doing something like that. So it's very, very, very high risk, right? Oh my goodness. We're getting more
high risk, no reward.
Yeah, and what's the reward? There's nothing for you. So that's why I think it's Jim Dalrymple 2.0. Gurrimple. Mark Gurrimple. This is such insider baseball. Oh my goodness. Hold on a second. We got Threat Level Midnight. Have an ice cold Stella Artois on me, guys. Great show. FYI, I'm Canadian, and that's why the amounts of the super chats are random. Well, it's not random to me. I'm looking at $27.99 Canadian, which I think is $3.45 American, which we really appreciate. Just joking. Yeah, man. Let's see here. Do you know what the price of Stella Artois is here in the U.S., especially when you take into account the amount you'll have to spend on a lawyer after imbibing that Stella Artois and defending you against all the people who are suing you at the bar that you accosted? So I appreciate that. I might get something a little less risky, though. And then we also got another super chat, $10 from Hugo Last. He's just going, yeah. That might be one of my best ones. Lewis, I don't want to hear nothing about it. All right, let's see here. Should we move on? I think we should. Is that all the sponsors we have for this episode? Yeah, I think we're good on sponsors. I
don't know. Let's ask the person who runs the show.
We had some last-minute changes, so I was a little bit discombobulated coming in because we had some additional stuff that we had to move around. All right, Griffin. From Griffin to Griffin. Now, I thought this was a big story this week, and I don't think that a lot of people heard about this, but this is one of those things that I think is going to actually have a big impact once it shows up in MacBook Pros. So I at least think that we should mention this Apple battery technology story that we had on the site.
Sure. Headline, Apple gets ready to make much better batteries. Apple is developing greatly improved batteries for its future devices, according to a new report. It appears the iPhone maker wants to create a custom process. a custom process in-house and own it rather than outsourcing, just like it did with Apple Silicon chips. The rumor reported Monday by Korean outlet ET News says Apple is developing a custom process to produce long-lasting and more sustainable batteries for devices by iPhone by 2025. That sounds kind of optimistic for me. High-performance cathode materials are said to be in the mix to get the desired results. An increase in silicon, moving away from a graphite-based design, may add battery capacity and reduce charging times. Notably, the report says that only Apple can put a plan like this into action because it has apparently overcome a big problem with silicon, that it expands when charging. Definitely don't want your batteries to expand. Just ask our good friends at Samsung.
Yeah, not a good look, especially when you're on the airplane and they have to land it.
I think saying that it'll come to the iPhone by 2025 is a little optimistic, especially if this is the first we're hearing about this. But I mean, I think this is nothing but good news from everything we've seen. When Apple rolls these things into their in-house, it's only when they feel like they have a breakthrough technology that they can do better than the competition, as we've seen, time and time again. Barring the butterfly keyboard, that was maybe not a
Oh, dude.
not a bright spot on their engineering team.
Oh my goodness. I still have
But
a Mac with a butterfly keyboard. And it's my wife's MacBook Air. She doesn't even bother fixing it anymore. And I was like, we got to get it fixed because there's an extended warranty. It's going to expire. If we don't get it fixed, then it's just going to be broken forever. What a boondoggle that was, that whole butterfly keyboard. And if you have one, you're just SOL, man. Like, what are you supposed to do? Because people know those things suck. And
it sounds like there will be a spare MacBook Pro sitting around the Elijah household.
Yeah, right. Because I mean, eventually we'll probably try to sell it, but I kind of feel bad. It's like if it's out of warranty, the thing is broken like 3 or 4 times now, and do I want to pawn that off onto someone? Although if Apple fixes it, it's fixed, right? So I don't really know, like ethically, like what is my level of responsibility there?
0.
Yeah.
Plenty of people use laptops with Bluetooth keyboards anyway. I mean,
I guess that's true. Yeah, maybe they can just do that, but I do kind of feel bad, man. It's like because I would never touch. I would buy an M3 Pro MacBook Pro before I bought a Mac with a butterfly keyboard. They're that bad.
I mean, it's got an Intel chip too, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's also that. I keep asking her if she wants me to buy her another MacBook Air, but she's just like, no, it works fine. But
Wow.
I'm like, how long do I let this stand? You know what I mean? How long do I allow this? It's the subpar product.
I would allow it as long as she's happy with it.
I know you would, Lewis. You're like, all right, honey, I'm good. I'm kind of in that same boat. I'm like, all right, if it's working for you, but
Just be glad she demand a new space black MacBook.
space, yeah, she could demand that all day
Space
long.
black.
There's few that need that much power. I know because I'm in that few. There's not many of us, but those of us that need it, we know.
Do you need it or do you want it?
I need it on an emotional level, Lewis.
I see.
Not technically.
Theoretically.
Like so many things that I buy, it's an emotional need. And that's what causes me to buy it. All right. Well, I thought the story was super fascinating and exciting, actually, that Apple's going to be getting into the battery creation space. And this goes along with, I think, Tim Cook's commitment to have Apple take over creation of things that are critical to their the success of their devices. And actually, I think that what I read was this story, the motivation for this change is the Apple Vision Pro, because the thing gets 2 hours, quote unquote, in a perfect scenario of battery life with that lame battery pack that you have to wear on your belt. And Apple realizes that if they want this thing to become ubiquitous, which I think it's actually DOA, but if they want it to have a chance of being ubiquitous, like they got to make this thing able to have long battery life. And that is true. If they want people to be wearing these things all day long, they can't be tethered to their desk or to an outlet or something. They have to be able to give you good battery life on your couch or wherever. And so that's part of the motivation for Apple to do this, is they want to increase the battery life for the Vision Pro. I say it's
I wouldn't be
DOA
surprised if
jokingly,
it's
but I'm also kind of like only half joking. Sorry, Griffin, go ahead.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's an environmental reason behind it too, because all of the precious metals that you need to make batteries are kind of ethically questionable at best. So I wouldn't be surprised if Apple's bringing this in-house so that they can own and take 100% responsibility for having an ethical battery manufacturing process.
Yeah, that's a good observation. And also, if they are able to offer you a more efficient battery, then they could shrink the size of the battery in your iPhone and save on shipping costs, create less pollution, shipping things all around the world.
Less weight.
Less weight. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to give you better battery life. It could just mean that they're going to save on weight, which of course saves on pollution and all that kind of stuff. Okay, last story of the show before we wrap up. Dude, this is one of my favorite stories of the whole year, Lewis. No joke. I think this what they did here was such a stroke of genius, and it solves a problem that I have had for years and years and years and years. I have a big container full of wires, Ethernet cables, USB cables, HDMI cables. And of course, when you just save these things up, you don't know what the specs are. And you go to use an HDMI cable, and you're like, does this HDMI cable support, 120 hertz refresh rates? You have no idea. The USB cable, what speeds does this support? This is especially true for USB-C cables, because USB-C cables all look exactly the same, but their specs are all completely different. And how are you supposed to know which is which, Lewis? Look at that setup. Take it in for the slam dunk,
Fantastic.
Lewis.
Yes, it is one of the finest headlines I've seen on our website this week. This one simple change will make every USB-C cable better. And I think that's
100%
accurate.
True.
So the story is that Elgato, this company that makes, the product in question is a teleprompter, and it's called, you won't believe this, it's called Prompter.
Yeah. It's building a buzz, though, too, because it's a lot less expensive than other teleprompters, and it connects with your phone and like other Elgato accessories. That's neither here nor there. So that's one of the reasons why that people are excited about it.
Yeah, okay. But the other reason people are excited about it is that it comes with a USB-C cable.
Yep.
And there's something special about it, right? Usually you'd say no big deal, but this would get people's attention because a tiny little thing that they did. They printed on the thing the type of the specs of the cable. It says that it's 5 gigabits per second data transfer over USB 3.0, and wow, information that you can use, right? And like you're saying, I mean, the problem is all USB-C cables look alike, and so how do you know what it is, right? Unless you buy I guess maybe if you bought like Apple's most expensive one, that might have a particular look, and you might be able to put,
it doesn't.
Tell
it doesn't.
The pack.
There's no way you would know. I mean, look, I got this cable right here, right? I just bought this the other day on Amazon. It's a USB-C cable, and it handles up to 60 watts of charging, right? But you don't know the data transfer rate. You don't even know what the charging rate is. It's not written anywhere on here. And I cannot believe that we've gotten to this point where this is the first time that I'm seeing this feature, because it's so desperately needed. Like, we all have these drawers full of cables, and none of us know what they're able to do, and so you end up just throwing the cables away or buying new ones.
I saw you hold up that thick cable, and I thought you were going to say, "Oh, this cable has a really fast transfer speed," because like just by looking at it, I thought, "Oh, that looks kind of thick." So it must have a lot
it's
of
just
wires
long.
going through
That's
it.
all it is. It's long but unimpressive, and I think the transfer speeds are USB 2 transfer speeds, so it doesn't even do transfer. And that's the two things with every USB cable that you need to know. What are the transfer speeds, and what's the charging spec? Super important, and this is the first time I've ever seen anything like that. Now, this doesn't tell you the charging rate, probably because it's not meant for charging, but that would be the last piece of information that we would need before our world would be a more harmonious place.
It's a little bit surprising that there's not some sort of I don't know, even just like color coded, right? I mean, like, it seems like there would be something that the industry would have come up with so that you could tell one cable from another. I mean, I suppose you could buy a tester of some sort, right? And spend your days plugging cables in to see what kind of specs they are. But yeah, I mean, it seems like a no-brainer, and like everybody's going crazy because like, wow, this is genius. It's like, is it genius? It's like one of the most obvious things in the world, but at least they're doing it. Elgato Senior Vice President Julian Fest says, quote, "You'll see spec data on all Elgato USB-C USB and HDMI cables going forward. No more guessing if the cable is the culprit of a tech issue. So, good on them. I'm glad they're getting the attention from it. I hope that they start a trend.
If they were smart, they would get ahead of this and start selling their own cables that are branded so that people know exactly what they're getting, because no one else does this. And there are big cable manufacturers on Amazon, and they don't do this either. They don't mark their cables in any way, shape, or form. And didn't he also say that they're going to do this with HDMI cables? I thought I saw that.
I think that's exactly what I just said.
Okay, well, I wasn't listening to
in
you.
the direct quote from the guy. I know. I'm used to that.
Because that's the two cable types that you need it for, right? Like HDMI, actually Ethernet too. But you can kind of surmise from the Ethernet cable casing what kind of cable it is. In fact, I think it's standard for that to be there. Yeah.
I didn't even realize that HDMI cables were different. I do so little with them. I had no idea that they are like USB-C and that they have different capacity.
Oh yeah. And actually DisplayPort cables, the same thing. And as 4K content, 8K content becomes more and more popular. 4K is obviously ubiquitous at this point. But you need a specific cable to transfer data at a specific speed. Like, is it 18 gigabytes per second? Is it 12? Is it 48? And you need to have the right cable to match the amount of bandwidth that you need. And if you don't, it just won't work, and you would never know why, unless you were able to figure that part out and be savvy enough to know what exactly you need to do. And I think this is more of a problem in the PC space than it is in the Mac space. But if you have a TV, this is also a problem. If you have a computer monitor, this is also a problem. And then again, you end up with a drawer full of cables like I have, and then you go back to look to see if you need a specific cable. You go to look to see what you have, and there's no way to know. You literally just have a drawer full of cables with no specs on them. So I was like, this is such a. It's like sliced bread, man. This is like the best thing since sliced bread. You hear people say that all the time, but I think that analogy actually works really well here because it's so obvious. It's so simple. You take the bread and you slice it. That's what they did here. They took something that exists and all they did was they labeled it, and it made it 1,000% better. So hats off to Elgato.
Exactly.
I think that's it. Q&A says,
we're all
Erfan
out.
repeating what Lewis just said is a beloved tradition of the CultCast.
It's just like the Yule log.
All right. We're going to end on that right there because it's not going to get any better than that. All right, everyone. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap it all up there. That's all the CultCast we have for you guys this week. It's great having Luigi back here. Look how pleasant of a mood he's in. He'll be back to his ill-tempered self next week. Don't worry.
Another week.
Once the glow of the Italian vacation has worn off. In the meantime, if you want to go say hi to Luigi, he's on Twitter at Lewis Wallace. I'm at Airfun. You can also Google at D. Griffin Jones. He shows up on some of the smaller networks. This has been the CultCast, the best 30-plus minute Apple conversation you're going to hear all week long. New episodes of the CultCast come out every Thursday night. I want to thank everyone for hanging out live. Thanks for all the super chats this episode. That was super nice. And we will see you guys next time. Few more super chats, Lewis, and I can finally make it out of this dump. Take all that money, retire, and maybe join the 9 to 5 Mac CultCast. New show that I'm starting with them.
Nothing but specs.
Specs all day long. Just dryly reading specs.
They even put numbers in the name of the site. That tells you everything you need to know.
No change in pitch. No smiling.
You'd be like one of those radio transmitters that just does nothing but I can't remember what those things are called, but those weird things.
Number stations.
Huh?
Number stations.
All right, everyone. I'm hovering towards the end stream button as we speak. I hope this works, and I'm not sure. Let's see. You still hear me? Still hear me?
Yes.
Hi, y'all.